Welcome back, everyone. This is Isaac from 90s Nerd Media. I'm back on the couch with another wrestling review. This time we're doing Friday Night Smackdown from Friday, March 21st, 2025. And since it's WrestleMania season, I have on my WrestleMania shirt from last year's WrestleMania, WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, that I did get to attend in person. It was my first time attending WrestleMania, and despite the cold and freezing temperatures, I had a great time. So I'm hoping that I can get out to Vegas this year to attend WrestleMania 41. I feel like it's going to be just as good or even better, so I'm looking forward to that. But as far as tonight, I'm going to do a recap of everything that happened, every match, every segment, and then I'm going to give you my opinion and give you an overall score at the end. So let's get into it. Okay, so SmackDown tonight is coming to us from Bologna, Italy, and this was another leg on the European tour. And just like the other stops, the crowd tonight was raucous. We started the night off with Randy Orton, who came out to a loud pop, and you could tell that the crowd was very excited to see him. They were singing along to every word of his entrance music, and he got to stand in the ring and soak in all the love and adoration from the crowd. But before he could even get a word out, Kevin Owens came out to interrupt. And so KO basically wanted to explain his behavior for the past few months. And he said that he regretted attacking Randy Orton and that he should have saved all his anger for Cody Rhodes. But Randy Orton wasn't having any of it. He told Kevin Owens he could stick his apology up his ass. And then he threatened to kick his head off his shoulders. And so this led to them setting up a match for WrestleMania, which would be one-on-one Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. And honestly, I'm here for them fighting one-on-one. I'm glad we'll have another singles match on the card. I know with WrestleMania season, because they want to try to fit in as many wrestlers as possible, we have a lot of triple threat matches and fatal four ways, and they try to get as many people in as possible, which I understand, but I also just love like an old school one-on-one match. So I'm glad we'll get that with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. I feel like they've done a good job of building up their feud, and now that Randy is back, they could kind of escalate things, and we'll be excited to see them fight once WrestleMania gets here. Okay, so the first official match of the night was Damian Priest and Jimmy Uso versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Drew McIntyre. And this was a weird matchup for me. I know all these wrestlers have beef with each other individually, but it just felt like a weird pairing. The styles didn't really mesh well, and there was just like too many competing interests. But it was still a decent match overall. There were a couple of big spots, like Jimmy Uso diving over the top and just kind of atoning for his brother's flop last week. But overall, I feel like they didn't have a lot of time to work, and this definitely could have used a longer run time. And the main thing that came out of this match was Drew McIntyre attacking Damian Priest once again after the match. And he's really landing on thick with Damian Priest, and you can tell this is going to be a very heated and contested one-on-one rivalry going into WrestleMania. So that was the big takeaway from this match, but otherwise it didn't really get SmackDown off to a great start. Okay, so the next segment was Braun Strowman and LA Knight backstage, and Braun Strowman informed LA Knight that basically his match tonight was a de facto number one contenders match, and that if he beat Jacob Fatu, that he would get a title shot at the U.S. heavyweight belt that LA Knight holds. And LA Knight, he didn't back down from Braun Strowman. He was just like, hell yeah, if you win, I'll take you on. And I do like that they showed that LA Knight is ready to take on all comers, and I like that they kept that aspect of his character. I feel like that's who he's always been as a champion, and that he's not afraid to fight anyone. So it was good for them to have that segment to kind of set up a preview if Braun Strowman won, him versus LA Knight for that title belt. So the next segment, we get another promo is Charlotte Flair and Tiffy, and this time they're doing one of the split screen promos that they use sometimes, and it was a decent promo. I do feel like Tiffy and Charlotte beating on each other is more effective than having them yell at each other across a split screen, but it did what it needed to do. But I do feel like they were very promo heavy to start off this episode. We had the Randy Orton and Kevin Owens promo, then we had Braun Strowman backstage with LA Knight, and now we had Charlotte and Tiffy. So it's a lot of talking to start off the show, not a lot of wrestling, which I don't enjoy. I love when they just come in and they have a like matches to start and then kind of get into the promos later. But this SmackDown was very promo heavy, so it was kind of off to a slow start. So next we get into the actual match. This is Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu for the number one contenders to the U.S. title in LA Knight. And so they've been building this feud up for a few weeks now, Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu. And I feel like they've done a decent job of actually making Jacob Fatu look dangerous, especially to someone as big as Braun Strowman. Like, it takes a lot of work to make somebody look like they could believably hurt Braun Strowman, and I think they've done that with Jacob Fatu. So this was a decent build up, and the match itself was pretty fun. I think Jacob, he can give Braun a run for his money. Obviously not power-wise, but he has enough power to where it's realistic that he could give him a challenge. And then he also has the speed and agility to kind of bother him. So they showed Braun getting the better of Jacob for most of this match, but then Jacob started to get the upper hand. But right when it looked like Jacob was kind of in trouble, we had the bloodline, or the former bloodline, with Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga come out, and they interfered in the match, and they caused Jacob the match by getting him disqualified. And afterwards, we saw a promo later in the night where Jacob Fatu was pissed, just leading more to the division of this former bloodline. And we can see that there are eventually going to be some cracks and they may split up. But Jacob, he was not happy with them interfering, and once again made Solo look very weak, having Jacob yell at him and just treat him like he's his son. So we can see that they're definitely going to end up breaking up soon. Okay, so the next match of the night was Zelina Vega versus Piper Niven. And honestly, this was my favorite match of the night. We saw Piper Niven really get taken to the limit by Zelina Vega. I feel like Zelina is one of the most underrated wrestlers on the roster. I love that they made mention of her being an anime fan. She has a podcast with Dakota Kai that I think is very fun. So I like that they kind of highlighted her personality, but also in the ring, she's very underrated. And we saw tonight that she really gave Piper a run for her money. And I like when they have like that dynamic of the small wrestler versus the large wrestler. And we know that Zelina Vega is like one of the smallest wrestlers on the roster. So the fact that she was able to have such a long match with Piper was a good sign for her going forward. And just this little bit of a push, getting her back into the spotlight after she's been kind of off TV for a while in the past couple of months. So I was happy to see that. Of course, we had Chelsea Green and Isla Dawn accompanying Piper, and they interfered like they usually do, and it ended up costing Zelina the match, but I still think she put on a good show for herself. So I was very impressed with her tonight, and this was my favorite match of the night, which was unexpected looking at the card going in. So the next match was Jade Cargill versus Liv Morgan. And before the match, we had just a brief rundown of all this stuff that happened between Liv and Jade, and why Liv Morgan had a beef with Jade Cargill for not speaking out and not clearing her and Raquel Rodriguez as the people who attacked her when it was really Naomi. So we could see why Liv Morgan felt some type of way and why she wanted to fight one-on-one against Jade. And as for the match itself, it was a pretty good match. I think it was good to get Jade back in the ring with just like a singles match and kind of knock some of the rust off. And I think she looked very good tonight. Obviously, she's going to look strong against Liv Morgan, who she's way bigger than, way stronger than. So she got to toss her around the ring a lot. But of course, we knew where this was going. Naomi came out and attacked Jade, and that essentially ended the match. But Naomi actually did put a pretty good beat down on Jade Cargill, which I was not expecting. But we could see that they're leaning all the way in on heel Naomi, and that she's doing good with the run of being a heel right now. So I'm enjoying it. I wasn't expecting to see Naomi as a heel, but I think it's a good swerve and a good storyline for her to just kind of push her into the spotlight more as a singles competitor and not as Bianca's, tag along friend. So I'm here for it, and I want to see more of Naomi being vicious and attacking people and just being a full-on heel. So I'm here for it. So the last match of the night was the Street Profits versus Los Garza. And before the match, we had all of the tag teams kind of getting back into the beef with each other, going back and forth, talking about who really should be number one contenders versus who are fighting for the belts. But the Street Profits are the champions. They are having their first match since winning the belts last week on SmackDown. And Los Garza have been one of those teams that have been really showing out this year. So they put on a good match. Street Profits came out on top. They look strong, they look dominant, and they look like they were ready to carry this mantle as tag team champions going into WrestleMania. So I think this was good for them to look very strong. But obviously, you're going to have all of these teams kind of coming out and wanting to challenge them for the belt. So we'll see who their opponent actually ends up being for WrestleMania. Right now, Pretty Deadly is the number one contender, but they haven't set a date for when they'll actually get their tag team title shot. So we just have to wait and see how this is all going to play out. But I am happy with the Street Profits being the champions, and I think they put on a pretty good match for their first championship title run. And finally, for the last segment of the night, we had Roman Reigns come out with the wise man, Paul Heyman, and he wanted to address the WWE crowd. And so he basically just explained why he attacked Seth Rollins and CM Punk last week, and that is because he wanted revenge for what happened at Royal Rumble. And then Seth Rollins came out and he told Roman, like, look, this is between me and you. This has always been between me and you. You know, our history together. We came into the business together, and we're going to like settle this, one on one. And he said that even though he wanted to take out CM Punk, that Roman was still his main focus. And of course, CM Punk couldn't stand for this, so he came out to address both of them and basically told Roman that hey, I saved your ass at War Games, and even though the wise man owes me a favor, I'm here to challenge you and Seth Rollins both. And really, before Roman could respond, he just started attacking Roman. And then, of course, Seth, he jumped into the fight, and we just had altercation with all three of them beating on each other. And anybody could see that this is going to lead towards a triple threat at WrestleMania with CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins, which is going to be one of the better and more highly anticipated matches for WrestleMania. So they're off to a good start. I think these three are three of the most popular and like most well-respected wrestlers on the roster. So obviously it's going to be an explosive match. I think everybody's looking forward to it, and it may even steal the show, even though it's not a title match. But when you have like three wrestlers of this caliber in a triple threat match at WrestleMania, it has the potential to be an all-timer. So I'm excited for that. As far as SmackDown tonight overall, I would give the show a 3 out of 5. I just think that this show was way too promo heavy for a 3-hour show. We didn't get a lot of matches, and then some of the ones we did get weren't very long, but we did get a couple of good matches. The Street Profits, Selena Vega, I thought did very well tonight. But yeah, overall, this show could have done a lot better with the time. Could have gave us more wrestling, less promos, but hopefully they'll bounce back next week with Raw and SmackDown.